Hi, welcome to Minutes with Mickey, a time for us to wonder about the narrative that we find in 2 Chronicles 28, 2 Kings chapter 18, that has to do with King Ahaz. Let's remember that we are now talking about the southern kingdom, which is the kingdom of Judah, where Jerusalem is the capital and where the temple is located. The northern kingdom, the kingdom of Israel, is where Samaria is the capital and where they had placed a new secondary temple in Samaria when the two countries split, when the two kingdoms split. We're focusing in now on Judah, and we're going to see a little bit of Israel. King Ahaz does not follow after his grandfather and his father's ways. He completely goes away from that and spends his time being like the kings of Israel and defies the Lord. Remember in our last few stories, I remember wondering why it was that the good kings of Judah did not do away with the high places, which is where idol worship was taking place. And here we see in this particular narrative that the high places are being resurrected again. And if they had been destroyed, maybe it would have been a little harder. But Ahaz does horrific things with child sacrifice. Child sacrifice was normal in Mesopotamian world history. It was part of early world history. It's just part of the natural being for those people who felt they had to do something to appease the gods. And let us remember that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was a God who did not need to be appeased, was a God who said, the God who said, I will be with you if you just obey me. Bad things will happen when you don't, but please just obey me. So there was no need to follow after the ways of the world to appease a God with these kinds of horrific sacrifices. The God of the universe had done away with that. And it was people who made that kind of element. So I wonder, why is it that we go back to doing that which is so horrible when we have a God who's already said you don't need to do any of that? And that's a question that I have all throughout the Old Testament history. Why do people choose to do the horrible and the horrific things when God says, just obey me and I will be pouring out blessings for you? And here we see that, where Ahaz chooses to do that which is evil. He makes an alliance with Assyria, and let's get out the map. I think it's very important that you recognize where Syria is, where Assyria is. If you take a look at Mediterranean world history and you see where the Tigris and the Euphrates River is, it is north of the Tigris and Euphrates River, which is the Mesopotamian area. That is Assyria. North of Judah and Israel, up towards Damascus and that kind of area there, and then south of the Tigris Euphrates, that is the land of Syria, Damascus being its capital. So Ahaz decides to ask for help from Assyria to help with Syria. Naturally, because Syria is closer. They're getting ready to sort of take over everything. So they make this alliance. And Assyria crushes Syria, captures Syria, takes them away. That's why it's not unusual to see in this text that after the Syrians were completely destroyed, that Ahaz would meet the king of Assyria in Syria, in the area of Syria. Sort of basically, he goes to Damascus to meet up with him. And this is where he sees this altar that he likes, and it gets taken back and built in Jerusalem and gets put into the temple. Again, here's this horrible thing that this man does, this king does, and God chooses to punish him by letting Israel conquer him. So Israel conquers Judah and takes them away, but then God is mad at Israel for overstepping their bounds and taking their own brethren into captivity. And the priest warns Israel about this, and Israel comes to their senses and says, okay, we won't. They take care of these people and they send them back to where they need to be. The biggest wonder I have about this is always, why do people keep choosing to do that which is so damaging to others when they know what God has already asked them to do? And that God just says, let me be with you and I will make things better for you. God uses even people within the same family to teach us lessons. God used Assyria to take care of Syria in order to protect Judah. And then God used Israel to punish Judah. And then God says, look, watch out, Israel, you're going to get punished for this if you don't do something different. And sure enough, they change their mind and they do what is right. It's an amazing thing. God's grace keeps showing up over and over and over again. And our human ability to want to do things our own way continues to get us into trouble after trouble after trouble. What is God saying to you in this particular story? Is it just another one that just adds to the next one? Why do people keep doing the wrong thing? And I have to ask myself, why about me? Why do I keep disobeying the Lord when I know that it would be so much better for me if I followed him to the letter and to the love? Because God's grace abounds for us all. Have a great day.